Well. Good afternoon, West Ham fans. Rush the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well in the broom cupboard once again. Although I realise I'm repping. Didn't even realise. Half asleep when I put my clothes on tonight, or this morning rather. This morning we spoke about a bit of a samba feel to everyone we're being linked to at the moment, and that sort of follows through in terms of one of the stories we're going to be talking about today. But it is the world famous Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. From tomorrow onwards, we start obviously the content ahead of the Newcastle game at the London Stadium on Sunday. We'll have an opposition fan, starting 11 show, the stat attack, all that type of stuff coming up. So make sure you check that out. Also, don't forget to check out kneesupmybrand.com for latest news reviews and opiniones. Right, let's talk about transfers. Obviously, we are hurtling very quickly towards the end of the year, which then heralds the start of the January transfer window. According to a report, actually, previously we know the influence of Will Salthouse in terms of bringing in players, but according to reports in Claret and Hugh, he is now reported to have reported to be very limited, have a very limited influence on the transfer dealings following, obviously, he completed the Callum Wilson deal over the summer, but has been involved in several West Ham transfers with some mixed results. Yin and Yang, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Yang, Maxwell Cornet. And in fact, Cornet cost £2 million more than Wan-Bissaka. So #go figure. Obviously, Maxwell currently on loan again in Genoa in Serie A. However, it does seem to be that the Callum Wilson deal will be the final nail in the coffin in terms of Salthouse's influence and his unique sports management agency, in terms of them being the first port of call to bring in players to West Ham as part of Nuno Espirito Santos's negotiations. He reportedly preferred to work with a select few of agents, as we spoke about before, Jorge Mendes being the main one, and his harem of a lot of Portuguese talent. And we spoke about how that, the likes of Nuno Neves, Ruben Neves, not Nuno Neves, Ruben Neves and several other players. I wouldn't be surprised to see them linked in the next few weeks. And with that, it does seem that Salthouse will be frozen out this January. Now, it's like the thing that never goes away. When we were doing our transfer dealings with Tim Stein at the helm, the influence and the lack of Salthouse clients coming into West Ham was obvious. And with that, I think there was a lot of negative news out there about West Ham, their transfers, and I believe that wasn't a coincidence. In terms of trying to upset the apple cart from, we know how the likes of agents and stuff influence sports, and it did seem a bit of a coincidence. And now with all the stuff that's been going on about Paqueta wanting to leave and Bowen to Tottenham and all, is it a coincidence it's all sort of come out the woodwork in the last couple of weeks since Nuno's taken over? And obviously with Nuno comes Jorge Mendes as well, and sort of, I don't know, it just seems, I love a conspiracy theory, but it does seem that Unique Sports will be finding themselves on the outside looking in on West Ham's transfer activity in our crucial January transfer window. So is that a good thing? I think it is. And I think, but are you replacing one with another, which we sort of are, Salthouse for Mendes? But as you can see, and as we've seen before, I would suggest under his reign at his tutelage at Wolves, they sign players they probably shouldn't have got based on their level, and we need all the help we need in terms of convincing players to join us in January, particularly if we're in a similar position to where we are now at the moment. Things may change, things may not change, but having the ability to convince players to join lesser favoured options is definitely something in Mendes' wheelhouse. So let's keep an eye on that. Let's talk about a couple of loan players, shall we? A couple of academy, like one's more first team loan. Let's talk about Kaelen Casey, the man, just like the Queen. He had 2 birthdays. Celebrated his birthday on Tuesday, not on Saturday. Even the Swansea social media team took the piss and said the man with 2 birthdays. But he had a fantastic game last night against Man City in the Carabao Cup, despite losing 3-1. There's been plaudits all day come from Twitter and stuff, raving about his performance last night on social media, despite obviously conceding 3 goals and losing 3-1. He won 100% of his ground and aerial duels last night, and 21 defensive contributions. When you look at our current options, they don't have those types of stats. In fact, Ben's going to be doing a stat profile about how Casey's getting on at Swansea. And I don't know. We'll come to that in a minute. He also had 80% pass completion rate against a very high pressing City side as well. He didn't commit a single foul, so very calm. Which, to be honest, is not a serious step change from how he was playing at under 21s, but under 20, and that's why sometimes we talk about, rather than throwing players straight in, let them develop, let them earn their stripes on loan. And this is, if he carries on the trajectory he's going, this is great news for West Ham, great news for Casey as well, because I wouldn't personally, and I'm happy to be proved wrong sometimes. I didn't think he had it in him to step up, but his performance yesterday was very, very good, very, very good. Now, the issue, it was a slight issue. He struggled for minutes in the Championship for Swansea, but maybe this could be the breakout performance last night, which would then convince Swansea managers to give him more first team minutes in the league, which is what he really needs. He's played and started in every match in the Carabao Cup this season. He had 90 minutes against Forest when they lost. They won 3-2, and obviously he had the game yesterday as well. He's yet to start in the Championship. He's made 3 appearances off the bench and totaling just 22 minutes. However, I think Swansea have a good defence already, joint 5th best in the Championship. So Casey isn't going to be just thrown in. He has to earn his spot, and maybe the performance yesterday could have gone some way towards that. If he managed to break into the first team before January, there could be an option to recall him. Personally, I think it's probably best for him to stay at Swansea, in all honesty, and develop, and then come back next season with a full season of Championship football under his belt, because he may play a couple of games and he'll be on the bench and maybe drop down to 21s and I don't think that's the best for him. I think now he's sort of past the 21s now, so hopefully this performance will start him breaking into the Swansea first team for the Championship games. And so let's hope, because we may well need a Championship centre-half next season. Maybe. So someone who's already equipped in playing that level of football could be useful. Let's talk about another bit of loan information, and it's the lead story. It's the lead story I put in because I think it's really interesting and what it could mean. And it's from the academy. So Finn Herrick was in the summer transfer window, moved to Bournemouth on a season-long loan, National League side. And yesterday, today, West Ham have taken the surprise decision to recall Finn from his loan spell at Bournemouth. He's been in great form for them. Anyone who follows the academy show every Monday, 6 o'clock UK time, would know he's been keeping, I think it's 7 or 8 clean sheets in the 11 games he's played. He's only conceded maybe less than half a dozen goals as well. And he got called up to England under 20s as well. And he's having a great time. So the decision to cut short that loan spell and bring him back is quite a big one, personally. Obviously, we've got Areola, we've got Fabianski already vying for number 1 jersey. Plus, also, we've got Mads Hermansson, our £15 million summer signing, on the bench as well. So the decision to bring him back does seem a bit strange. And anyone who watched the training video yesterday would have seen that Finn was, well, they were playing these little mini games, and Mads was in one end and Finn was in the other end, and Areola and Fabianski weren't there. They were doing some shooting practice later on. So a bit strange. I think this really does suggest that it's curtains for Mads, personally. Well, it could suggest two things. One is, obviously, we've got Raul Barbosa now, the goalkeeper coach, and obviously Nuno being a former goalkeeper as well. Maybe they're assessing their options ahead of the January transfer window. We've got Mark Robson, and we've got Potsy, and we've got Gerard, and Billy has been hanging around as well. So in terms of being able to talk to Nuno about the academy, and obviously Finn he's one of the brightest prospects coming out of the academy. So maybe he wants to have a look at him. Why you do it now, to me, would assume that there's plans afoot in terms of the goalkeeper position in January, because otherwise you wouldn't bring him back. You let him carry on playing and you just go and assess. So for me, it does somewhat pull curtains down on the short West Ham career of Mads Hermansson, personally. I mean, there was high hopes when he joined, but, you know, just hasn't done it. And then, you know, obviously Nuno came in. Mads was very much a Potter man, you know, being heralded by Jasper, the friendly goalkeeper coach, in terms of his preference in terms of who would bring in, having both played together, or him training at Bromby. Very much a Potter man. Nuno's come in, and the first thing he did was obviously replace Mads with Alphonso Areola, who is more of the type of goalkeeper, physically, athletically, that Nuno prefers in his team. Now, with Hendrick being recalled, it does seem the writing's on the wall for Mads. And obviously he's training with the first. He's not been recalled to go into the 21s. We've got enough cover in the 21s. You know, we've got and you'd have probably actually you wouldn't have recovered Mason because he's broken his hand. You've got Christian Heggie now there. He played obviously on Tuesday. Tom Wooster. You've got the young, or the tall lad, the Irish, Breen as well. So they've got enough cover there. So it very much is pathway into the first team. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. As I said, I assume, based on it, that Mads, that the idea being is they want to maybe cash in on Mads in January and want to make sure that Finn can do a job as a third team, as the sort of the reserve goalkeeper. That's or even potentially Finn being the number two with Fabianski. I don't know, but it does seem that the timing is somewhat sus. You know, you wouldn't necessarily, he could still turn up and do a little bit of training, maybe, you know, or because he's still his parent club, but to be recalled, and then as a result, Bourne would have had to recall their. And like an old goalkeeper, one of their sort of fan favourite goalkeepers is now back. It's all a bit interesting, and I think that we'll find the true development of that in January with, as I assume, Mads Hermansson being moved on, and Finn being the next one, even more so than Christian Heggie. I think Finn's probably more of a complete goalkeeper, although actually Christian did a really good job against Swindon Town. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. But I think Finn is the future. Very cool on the ball. Can play with both his feet. Good shot stopper. A little bit small for a goalkeeper, which is obviously one of the issues with Mads. But I can hardly speak. Anyway, that's it, my friends. Don't forget to like, comment, share, give it a hype if you've got any spare hypes left. And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll also have the Nuno Espirito Santo, the Nezzy's presser tomorrow, I think. Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. Anyway, take care. Much love. Peace out.